When I first walked into the office on my very first day, the last thing on my mind was romance. Honestly, I was nervous. I was in my late 20s, starting fresh at a mid-sized marketing firm downtown. The place had that typical corporate vibe. Gray cubicles lined up like little boxes, the low hum of printers in the background, and coworkers glued to their screens pretending to look busy. I promised myself, this is where I'll build my career. Nothing else matters. But then, I noticed her. She sat 2 rows across from me, a brunette with sharp eyes and a smile that could disarm anyone in seconds. She wasn't the loud type. Instead, she had this calm confidence about her, like she always knew exactly what she was doing. And maybe that's why I found myself watching her just a little too often during that first week. That it didn't take long before we started talking. At first, it was small stuff. Asking about where the break room was, joking about the ancient coffee machine that never worked right, or trading sarcastic remarks during boring team meetings. But those little exchanges turned into real conversations. Soon, lunch breaks became our thing. We'd grab sandwiches from the cafe down the street, sit on the steps outside, and talk about everything from weekend plans to childhood stories that I should have seen the signs. The way she'd linger just a second longer when she laughed at my jokes, or how her messages started popping up on my phone after work hours. Can you believe what our boss said today? Or, did you finish that project yet? Or are you still procrastinating? The kind of casual text that slowly turned into comfort. Point one Friday, after a long and stressful week, she suggested we grab a drink at a bar nearby. I said yes, and that night changed everything. That we started dating at first. It felt like a rush, like we had this secret world that no one else knew about. Inside the office, we were professionals, careful not to cross any lines. But outside, we were inseparable. Dinners, movies, late-night drives. It felt like I had finally found someone who understood both my career goals and my personal struggles. And honestly, it made the job more exciting. Knowing she was just a few desks away, sneaking glances at each other during endless meetings, or brushing past each other in the hallway with that knowing smile. Every workday felt lighter. Even Mondays weren't so bad anymore. But as much as we tried to keep it discreet, coworkers started noticing. People talk, especially in offices. Whispers started circulating. Jokes floated around during lunch. So, when's the office wedding? Or, better be careful, don't get caught making out in the supply closet. We laughed it off, but deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before this relationship became more than just a cute secret. The funny thing is, I didn't care. At that time, I thought, why should I? I was happy, she was happy, and the job was still going well. What could possibly go wrong? I remember one specific moment like it happened yesterday. We were both stuck late working on a client pitch. Everyone else had left. The office was quiet, the glow of our monitors the only light in the room. She leaned back in her chair, looked at me, and said, "You know, this would all be unbearable without you here." That sentence, that smile. That night, I was convinced she wasn't just my coworker or even just my girlfriend. She was my partner. Looking back now, I can see how naive I was. Because what felt like a dream in those early days was actually the beginning of a nightmare I couldn't see coming to a T that time. Though, I was falling in love, hard and fast. And I had no idea that the very same love story that made me excited to come to work every morning would later almost destroy everything I had worked for. For a while, everything seemed perfect. We had slipped into this rhythm, colleagues by day, partners by night. We thought we were managing it well, keeping things professional when needed and letting ourselves be a couple when the office lights went off. But the truth is, it's impossible to keep work and love in 2 separate boxes. Eventually, one leaks into the other. It started small. On mornings when we'd had an argument the night before, the tension followed us into the office. She'd avoid me in meetings, her answers sharp and clipped. If I made a joke in the break room, she wouldn't laugh. I'd catch coworkers giving us curious glances, as if they could sense something was off. Other times when things were good, they were too good. We'd linger a little too long, talking near the printer, or accidentally let a private joke slip in front of others. Our manager, a sharp-eyed woman who missed nothing, once looked at us across the conference table and said, "You two seem awfully in sync these days." It was innocent enough, but it made my stomach drop. Then came the bigger cracks. I remember the first time she accused me of being the boss's favorite. We had both worked late on a big campaign, and the next morning in the team meeting, our manager singled me out for praise. "Great job on those numbers. Really impressive work." I smiled, proud of myself, but when I glanced at her, her face had tightened. Later, she laughed it off with a sarcastic, "Well, of course you got the credit. You always do. It was just a joke." Or at least that's what I told myself. But it stung, and the seed was planted. Our conversations at night started shifting. Instead of talking about movies we wanted to watch or places we wanted to travel, we were comparing workloads, recognition, and career growth. Who was doing better? Who was being noticed more? It wasn't playful anymore. It was competitive. And competition in a relationship, especially one tangled up with work, is dangerous. The tension really spiked when the company announced a new managerial position was opening. It was the kind of opportunity that doesn't come around often. More responsibility, higher pay, and a real stepping stone toward long-term success. Naturally, I wanted it. But so did she. At first, we pretended it didn't matter. "Hey, no big deal. May the best person win," we said to each other. But behind those words, I could feel the weight of unspoken fears. Every dinner became a debate about leadership styles, qualifications, and performance. She'd point out times I had stumbled in past projects, and I'd remind her of deadlines she had missed. What used to be harmless teasing now felt like low blows. In the office notice point, one coworker casually mentioned, "So, are you two going head-to-head for that promotion?" I laughed it off, but deep down, I knew the worst had happened. Our private struggle had spilled into public perception. The whispers grew louder. Some said I'd get it because I was the manager's favorite. Others said she was more deserving, that I just got lucky. Suddenly, the same colleagues who used to tease us about being the office couple were now dividing into sides, like spectators at some corporate boxing match. The night before the interviews, we sat in her apartment, both trying to focus on our notes. She snapped first. "You're going to get it, you know? You've always been the golden boy." "That's not fair," I shot back. "I've worked just as hard as you. If anything, I stay later. I take on more projects." She cut me off. "Maybe because you know they'll notice you more." Me? I could bleed for this company and still be invisible. Her words hit me hard, not just because of the bitterness in them, but because a part of me feared she was right. Maybe I was more visible. Maybe my efforts were being noticed more. But was that my fault? We went into those interviews like two strangers. By then, the warmth between us was gone, replaced with cold determination. And in that moment, I realized the truth. This wasn't just about the promotion anymore. It was about us, about whether our relationship could survive when our ambitions collided head-on. That I tried to convince myself it was just a phase, that we'd get through it. But deep down, I knew something had already cracked. And cracks, when ignored, don't just disappear. They spread. Looking back, that promotion wasn't just a career test. It was the beginning of the end for us. The morning the promotion results were announced, the office buzzed like a hive. Everyone pretended to be busy, but I could feel the glances, the whispers traveling faster than emails. When my manager called me into her office, my stomach tightened into knots. She smiled, shook my hand, and told me I'd been selected. My heart should have leapt with joy, but all I could think about was her. When I walked back to my desk, she already knew. The way she avoided looking at me said everything. Her hands were still on her keyboard, but I could tell she wasn't typing anything. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words felt heavy, like no matter what I said, they'd make things worse. From that day on, everything changed. At first, it was subtle. She stopped eating lunch with me, stopped waiting after meetings so we could walk out together. Then it grew sharper, cutting comments in group discussions, her disagreeing with me on projects just for the sake of it. Once, she even muttered under her breath, "Of course you'd say that," when I suggested an idea in a team meeting. The room went silent. I laughed it off, but the damage was done. The rumors started again. Only this time, they weren't about romance. They were about rivalry. The tension got so bad that HR called me in. Sitting in that beige conference room, under fluorescent lights, I felt like a criminal. The HR manager cleared her throat and asked, "Can you confirm whether your personal relationship has influenced any work-related decisions?" I froze. How do you answer that? How do you explain that what started as love had turned into poison? I told them the truth, that I had never let personal matters affect my professional judgment. They nodded, scribbled notes, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. Once HR is involved, the stain never really washes away. Meanwhile, she grew more distant by the day. At one point, she requested to be moved to another department, and when that didn't happen, she started working from home as often as she could. When she did show up at the office, she barely acknowledged me. And honestly, a part of me couldn't blame her. The final blow came on a random Tuesday. She sent me a text, not a call, not a face-to-face conversation, just a single text that read, "I can't do this anymore. I am resigning. Good luck with your career." I stared at the screen, my chest hollow. That was it. Just like that, she was gone. Her resignation shook the office. People whispered louder than ever. Some pitied her, others looked at me with quiet judgment. In their eyes, I wasn't just the guy who got the promotion. I was the guy who had driven a coworker out of the company. Even though I still had the job, it didn't feel like a victory. My reputation had taken a hit I couldn't recover from. The trust, the camaraderie I once had with my team, was fractured. Whenever I walked into a meeting, I could feel the invisible weight of their assumptions pressing down on me. Nights were the worst. I'd sit in my apartment, staring at the promotion certificate framed on my wall, and wonder if it was worth it. Was the title, the pay raise, the recognition worth losing her? Worth losing the respect of my colleagues? The answer came slowly, painfully, and it was no. Looking back now, I realize I was blind. Office romances can start like a spark. Exciting, thrilling, almost cinematic. But the same spark can burn down everything if you're not careful. We thought we could keep love and work separate, but in reality, they collided like two trains on the same track that I still think about her sometimes. I wonder if she found a new job, a place where no one knew her history, where she could start fresh without the weight of me hanging over her. I hope she did. She deserved that .as for me. I kept the promotion, kept the job, but I lost something bigger: trust, reputation, and maybe even a piece of myself. The office whispers eventually faded, as they always do. New scandals replaced old ones. But I'll never forget how it felt to walk through those cubicles, knowing that behind every polite smile was a question left unspoken. Was it worth it?